In this video, we're going to take a look at volume of different rounded figures, things like cylinders, cones, and spheres. One thing that you do need to know right off the bat are the actual volume formulas. In this video, I'm not going to discuss with you why they work. We're just going to show you how to work with them. Again, if you want to know why they work, we'll take a look at that at another time. So take a look. I've got just a couple of quick examples here of each. I've got a couple cylinders, a couple of cones, a couple of spheres. And let's start with the cylinders. They're fairly basic and easy to work with. And here's the formula. And I'm going to write it off to the side here so we can see it as we work. So the volume formula for a cylinder is that volume equals pi times the radius squared times the height. All right? And a couple of things about this. First, we're dealing with radius. So if we look at number 1 here, we're going from center of the circle to the edge. That's the radius. So this 2 yards is a radius. If we look over here, though, notice this measurement goes from one edge of the circle through the center to the other edge. This is the diameter. So if you see a case like this, we don't want 4 inches in our formula. Instead, what we're going to want is just from center to edge. So I want half this amount. So my radius in case number 2 is 2 inches instead of 4. So that's something you want to take a look at. Also, the height. A lot of times people think height is simply measured up and down. So if I look at number 1, this height is 12 yards. But if I look here, notice the cylinder's been taken from, say, upright, and it's been turned. That's okay. This is still the height. We measure height on a cylinder from one base to the other. So in this case, 7 is our height, not this 4. Keep that in mind. So all you got to do is plug in the numbers that you know and just work from there. The only issue that we might have is pi. If you look at a calculator, some calculators will have a pi button that will allow you to take pi to a certain decimal place. So in this case, my pi button is here, about halfway on the left side, and it'll just show up as a character. So in this case, the pi character. If I hit equal, we're going to notice it goes out to 3.141592, blah, blah, blah. It goes out quite a ways. So if you want to use the pi button, you're welcome. However, some pages, whether it be a test, quiz, whatever, might have you use just 3.14. This is a perfectly good approximation of pi, as is the pi key. Again, just approximation here. But this goes out more digits, which means it's going to be a little more accurate. So I personally don't have a preference on which you use, though some problems will tell you specifically, use the pi key or use 3.14 as your approximation. At the end of the day, it's just going to be off by a little. So here we go. I'm going to use the pi key in all of this just to make my life easier. So if we look at number 1, we know that volume in this case is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared times the height. And I always write it out. It's just good practice. So in this case, volume will equal pi, and I'm not going to write out 3.14, times our radius. So in this case, our radius is 2. So, 2 squared. I'll keep wanting to write r. Times our height, which is 12. And now it's just up to the calculator. So pi times 2 squared times 12. And there's our volume. Notice in this case they're asking us to round to the nearest tenth, so we'll make sure that we do that. So volume of this cylinder is equal to 150, and notice 0.79. All right, well that 9 makes the 7 go up. So 8 tenths instead of 7 tenths. So 150 and 8 tenths, and in this case we're measuring in yards, yards cubed. Again, we're measuring volume, how much three-dimensional space there is. So we'll use a cube unit, in this case cubic yards, as opposed to feet or inches. Make sure you include that on all of your answers, whatever your unit is cubed. All right, let's try the next one. It's going to work pretty much the same, so we've already got our formula written out. So volume equals pi times our radius. Well, in this case, our radius is also 2. How nice. It won't always be 2, but in this case it is. So 2 squared times our height of 7. So again, back to our calculator. We can punch that in real quick. Pi times 2 squared times, 7. So our volume in this case. Now, notice, 0.96, which means this 9 rounds up to a 10, which means this 10 is going to have to bump up. So instead of 87 point something, we're going to have 88.0. Because again, this bumps up to a 10, the 1 goes over to 7, and we're just regrouping here. So 88 cubic inches will be our volume. All right? Simple as that. So there's the volume formula. All you got to do is plug in what you know and you'll be good. All right? Well, let's look at cones. Cones and cylinders, as it turns out, are very, very closely related. Their formulas are almost identical. In the case of a cone, your volume formula is still pi times the radius squared times the height. There's only one minor change that we're going to make. When we're done, we're going to divide by 3. The reason for that is that a cone of equal height and radius to a cylinder is 1/3 of its size. And again, I'm not going to go into why that works. It's just the way it is. If you'd like another video on that, we can do one. So let's use the volume formula here, and we'll work through. Notice we've got a radius here, which is what we want. And the height of a cone is measured from the center of the base to the apex. We do not measure along this distance from apex to edge of the circle. That's known as a slant height, not what we want. We want from center of the circle to the apex, not from the edge of the circle to the apex. We don't want that. So here we go. So volume equals pi times our radius squared times the height divided by 3. So volume equals pi times our radius, in this case 4 squared, times our height, which is 11, all divided by 3. All right, let's plug it in. Whoop, helps if we can type. Pi times 4 squared times 11 divided by 3. Here we go. And again, still rounding to the nearest tenths position, so volume in this case is equal to 184 3/10 meters cubed. All right, just that simple. Number 4, same way. Notice this is still the radius we've got from center to edge. This is the height from apex to center. We do not want this edge. All right, that's not the height. That's the slant height. We want from center of the circle to the apex. So here we go. Volume equals pi times our radius, in this case 6 squared, times our height, which is 12, divided by 3. So here we are. Pi times 6 squared times 12 divided by 3. Goodness gracious, we're looking at 452, and once we round to the tenths position, 4/10 kilometers cubed. All right. Which brings us to the last, spheres. Now spheres are truly different. All right. Spheres volume is 4 times pi times the radius to the 3rd power. That's very important. Make sure you note that. Notice all of these have been squared, squared. This is different. This is cubed. So 4 times pi times your radius cubed divided by 3. And again, what makes spheres nice is that we're still dealing with radius, same as we did in our others, but there's no other measurement. There's no height that we have to contend with, or a slant height that we have to look out for. There's just radius. So in this case, number 5, we've got a radius. Notice in number 6 we don't, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Remember, I want from center to edge. So in this case, my radius will equal not 16, but 8 centimeters. And that's really the only thing we're going to have to look out for. So volume equals 4 times pi times our radius cubed divided by 3. Or in this case, volume equals 4 times pi times 7 cubed divided by 3. And again, calculator can help you out with any of those situations. So 4 times pi times 7 to the 3rd. Notice I have to use a caret key to get that 3rd exponent there. Divide by 3. And again, still rounding to the tenths position, so we're looking at 1,436 and looks like 8/10 feet cubed. And notice, a lot of people when they write this feet cubed, they then for some reason want to take this number and cube it. That's not what this means. Again, this is just telling you that the unit is cubed. So we're measuring cubes of a foot by foot by foot, not that this number needs to be cubed again. All right. Well, let's take a look at number 6. We'll finish it up and be good to go. So volume equals 4 times pi. Our radius in this case, remember we rewrote it. We don't want 16, that's the diameter, we want our radius. In this case, 8 cubed divided by 3. So 4 times pi times 8 to the third divided by 3. So we're looking at 2,144 and, once we round, 7/10 centimeters cubed. Right? So volume is pretty straightforward. It's just formulas. So again, for cylinders, volume equals pi times your radius squared times your height. For cones, volume equals pi times your radius squared times your height divided by 3. And then for spheres there, volume is equal to 4 times pi times your radius cubed divided by 3. If you have any questions, stop by in the morning. I will be happy to help you out.